Okay, good evening, everybody. This is the May 28, 2019 Board of Commissioners meeting. Call this meeting to order. Tonight, we're very blessed to have Major and Reverend Michael Dean Myers from Fair Oaks United Methodist Church to lead us in our invocation, and firefighter Chris Newman lead us in the pledge of allegiance. So those who are willing and able, please stand.
Let us pray. Loving God, we begin this meeting by celebrating and appreciating you as our Creator, our Redeemer, and our Sustainer, the one who puts life into our living. What a mighty and yet gracious God we serve, who in turn calls us, supplies us, and positions us to be of service to others. For no matter how great we may think we are as a nation or as individuals, you taught us that those who are the greatest among us in your eyes are those who serve. We also take this moment as we have all this holiday weekend to celebrate and appreciate those service military members throughout our history who made the ultimate sacrifice in service to and defense of our great nation. May we never forget or take for granted the price that was paid for our precious gift of freedom. We pray that you watch over those still exposed to the horror of war or the dangers of peacekeeping operations. Cover them in their homes in their time of need and safeguard their families with your sheltering grace until they are safely reunited. Be their very present help as they stand in the gap for our protection and our freedom. Among the freedoms they secured for us is the freedom we exercise tonight, that of self-governance. So we celebrate this Board of Commissioners comprised of those who answered the call to serve and to govern our county. We pray that you will crown them with wisdom from your mind, grant them courage and compassion from your heart, and protection by your mighty hand. Bless them with the leadership, management, networking, and negotiating skills so necessary in such a way that they will know that you are with them, and release to them the finances, staff, equipment, and all other resources needed to successfully and joyfully accomplish their mission. Finally, we pray that you will keep them in sober remembrance of the many lives they are daily impacting by their decisions, and may all accomplishments be for the greater good of our people and ultimately for your glory. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you both. Pastor, thank you, and thank you for your service. Before we get started tonight, it's with deep regret that I have to announce that we've lost one of our finest elected officials. Former Western District Commissioner Butch Thompson went on to glory today. He served as a Western District Commissioner from 1979 to 1986. So I'd like to have a moment of silence for him, if we could tonight, please. Thank you. May you rest in peace. Okay, we have one presentation tonight. Commissioner Gamble, I believe you have the floor.
Thank you. And I'd like to invite up our 4-Hers that are here and county staff. And while they're making their way up here, big congratulations to our Cobb County 4-H who competed in a district project achievement. And we will be hearing more about their results here from Brittany in a moment. Cobb County 4-H is a youth development organization that serves kindergarten through 12th grade youth throughout the county. The mission of Georgia 4-H is to assist youth in acquiring knowledge, developing life skills, and forming attitudes that will enable them to become self-directing, productive, and contributing members of society. This mission is accomplished through hands-on learning experiences that focus on agriculture and environmental issues, agriculture awareness, leadership, communication skills, food and nutrition, health, energy conservation, and citizenship. Thank you to our 4-H staff for all their great work they do with our kids. Brittany Lee, who is the 4-H program leader, Kathleen McElroy, Cassie McCullum, and Colleen Bakash, who are 4-H program assistants, and Willie Cohen, who is with AmeriCorps. Now I'd like to introduce Hope Warren.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Gambrill. It's an honor to stand up here tonight. I always feel privileged to do this, to stand up here with the kids that participate in our 4-H and youth program, as well as our 4-H and youth leaders. At this time, I just want to, I know she said your names, but I want you to identify yourself. Kathleen McElroy, Colleen Bakash, and Kelly Lee. Brittany Lee. She used to be Brittany Kelly, and I was trying to remember to say Lee instead of Brittany Kelly. So Brittany Lee, sorry about that, Brittany. And of course, we have our support from the county we really appreciate, is William Tanks. So thank you so much. I'm going to turn it over to Brittany, and she's going to tell you what the kids did and recognize them. Thank you.
So we have a fantastic group of 4-Hers standing here with us today. And so this past March, these 4-Hers, along with several of their other counterparts, competed at District Project Achievement, which is one of Georgia 4-H's largest programs. And it's actually a public speaking competition where students in 7th through 12th grade, they have to prepare what we call a portfolio, but that portfolio mirrors a resume. So they have to do a cover letter, and they have to condense all of their work and leadership and in their respective project areas down to 2 pages, just like you would if you were submitting a resume to the workforce. So these kids are working on that. And then when they go to Rock Eagle in March, they have to present a 7 to 9 minute presentation for 7th and 8th graders, or a 10 to 12 minute presentation on the topic of their choice for our 9th through 12th graders. And some not only did public speaking, but some participated in cooking projects where they had to prepare a dish, and they were watching for their food safety skills and also the taste of the dish. We also have some that were in the performing arts. So we are very proud of these 4-Hers, and we're going to recognize them today because we had 40 participants, and we had the highest percentage of first, second, and third place winners, who you see here today, and in the entire district, which is 39 counties. So we had 82% of our 4-Hers placed in the top 3. So Cobb County rocked it. So we are so excited, and 4-Hers, we're going to recognize you. I know we have certificates for you. We'll make sure that you get them at the end. So 4-Hers, as I call your name, please step forward and kind of wave so that the audience knows who you are. So we have Miss Kayla Fox. She will be representing us at the state level in July. We have Jada Fox. Kennedy DeVoe, who will also be representing Cobb County at the state contest in July. Haley Jones, Kyle Bakash, Emily Racinos, Emmy McElroy, Laura Harris, who will be representing us as well at the state contest, Madhav Bagdi, Raghav Bagdi, Mashur Ahmed, Israel Farrow, who will also be representing us at the state contest. We had 6 this year, so we are very excited. Isaiah Farrow, and Quadria Williams, who will also be representing Cobb County at the state contest. So we wish our 6 that are moving on to state good luck, and thank you so much for your time.
Congratulations to all of you. All right, now we have a couple of public hearings tonight, and the first one, Ms. Parrish from DOT, I believe, is the first public hearing.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, Chairman, Commissioners, Mr. County Manager. We would like to ask that the Board of Commissioners conduct a public hearing for the proposed closure and abandonment of a portion of Avery Street located in land lots 1222 of the 13th District, second section of Cobb County, Georgia, and determine that said right-of-way serves no substantial public purpose and authorize the disposition of same by quitclaim deed to the adjoining owners, Mapleton First Baptist Church, Inc., and Edwin and Barbara Jr.
Okay, before I declare this public hearing open, just go over the ground rules. Unlimited number of speakers. Please let us know who you are, where you live. And you're limited to 3 minutes. So that, I now declare this public hearing open on the proposed closure and abandonment of a portion of Avery Street located in lot 1222 of the 19th District, second section of Cobb County, Georgia. Anybody like to address this issue? Would anyone like to address this issue? Seeing none, I declare this public hearing closed. And we vote on this tonight, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I believe Commissioner Rod, isn't this one yours? Or Commissioner Cupid? Okay.
We don't need anything from any of us.
No, I just want to hear, I was just trying to be polite here. So, anyway, I'm sorry? No, nobody wants to speak. So with that, I make a motion. There was a vote tonight. We're voting on this tonight, right? All right, so Commissioner Cupid's in your district,
So moved.
okay? All right, any discussion? Call the question? Passes 5-0. All right. That'll be the hardest yes vote you ever got there, Eric.
Thank you.
Okay, the second public hearing is a little bit longer. And this one, there is no vote on this one tonight, right, Michael?
That is correct, sir.
Okay, so I just want to make sure we're clear on this.
Yes, sir. Good evening, Chairman, Commissioners, County Manager. Staff is requesting that you conduct the first public hearing to solicit comments and input related to proposed amendments for the summer 2019 code amendment cycle. The sections that we'll be considering this evening of the official code of Cobb County includes Chapter 2, Administration, 6, Alcoholic Beverages, 118, Traffic and Vehicles, and then 134, Zoning. By way of just brief background, at various times throughout the year, the Board of Commissioners direct staff to coordinate the preparation of these amendments for the official code of Cobb County in order to address concerns that may have been identified during the year as part of our routine community development activities. Staff has been directed to bring these code amendments forward in a timely fashion. Just as a reminder, this is our first public hearing. Planning Commission has a public hearing on June 4th, and then you will have a second public hearing on June 25th. With that, I'll get into the first code amendment, which is Chapter 2, Economic Development. This is just a cleanup item to change economic impact to fiscal impact. And we're proposing that would read as follows. Fiscal impact shall mean anticipated budgetary or other financial impact that may result from the proposed expenditure, decision, or undertaking related to applicants seeking economic incentives from Cobb County. This would be consistent with your action back in the end of March, where we changed some of the economic policies and procedures to say fiscal impact as opposed to economic impact, so that this would be internally consistent now. I do want to point out proposed expenditures that we probably need to modify that somewhat to indicate that those expenditures would come from the COP Business Innovation Fund that was actually set up with the $50,000 grant that was received from the Development Authority. And we can make those changes in time for your next hearing. The second code amendment gets into alcoholic beverages and specifically addresses food halls. And I can briefly just cover that. Food hall means any area that contains a food hall as defined in this section that share a large common area of seating and tables for customers. There would be a second definition added as it relates to food hall cafes. which means a restaurant that's located in a food hall, where seating for that would be shared with other food hall cafes. The applicant has to satisfy minimum seating requirements for a restaurant by establishing that they have sufficient number of total seats within their own premises or within the common area of the seating area of the food hall. This provision does not require seating to be contiguous or separately designated, but does require a sufficient amount of total seating to cover the establishments at the licensed food hall cafe. A food hall cafe may utilize one or more of the food hall cafes within the same food hall by written agreement to satisfy its meal service and alcohol food requirements and sales ratios that are identified in section 6.1. And with that, county attorney is here too to answer any questions with respect to that particular item. We're going to have other staff come up to present the other code amendments that are in this package.
Any questions from the commissioners? Okay,
Well, I have to.
all right, sure, go ahead.
We had some discussion, Michael, and I just want to be clear that the individual restaurants or bars within the food hall would still have to have their own alcohol license to serve, correct? Or no?
That is as it's currently drafted, yes. I think there are some discussions that have been brought about by the public as to that matter, and we are currently engaged in that, yes.
Okay, you've had comments?
Yes.
Okay, I haven't seen those, but,
It just happened today.
okay.
Or this afternoon.
It may be forthcoming at your hearing.
Okay, but as these have been revised, it's just for the seating and the other requirements. They would still have to have their own alcohol license, not a group license to be shared between
Correct.
the restaurants and bars within the food hall itself.
Correct.
Okay. If you could forward me the emails that you've received with any changes
Yes, ma'am.
or suggestions for that, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh, you say you had a second question? Or they're both covered?
Well, it's not on alcohol, so
Okay,
I'll
all
have to
right.
wait for that section.
Okay, any other questions? Okay,
So, and Chairman, the next item will be the bike share ordinance, and Erica Parrish will present that one.
So, good afternoon again. Thank you for consideration of this bike share ordinance. This is going to be Chapter 118, Traffic and Vehicles, Article number 7, Bike Share Infrastructure. A little history on this is the first bike shares were implemented in the Town Center District with 3 stations with 20 bikes. The program has grown tremendously. In 2018, an additional station was added at Avonlea Creekside Apartments. Additional bikes were added at Aviation Park. Founders Park has just added a bike share station, and then there's another bike share station planned at Kennesaw Mountain Battlefield. Cumberland CID has 3 stations. There's stations in Smyrna and then KSU. So the reason we have drafted this ordinance is to request that the board help us with providing an ordinance that is designed to set the bike share program standards for existing and possible new vendors, and it defines the terms, lays out the application processes, establishes insurance, indemnity, and escrow requirements in case things don't go as we plan, if people leave their bikes out and we have to go and get them if the bike share companies won't come pick them up. And also, it's going to define the bikes may be parked and where they may not be parked, and the department shall require data on the program, decide on where future stations can be located at, and alert operators when they are not acting in accordance with our ordinance.
okay. Commissioner Burrow?
Yeah. We had discussion on this too, and I would just like to know how this is going to impact the contracts that Town Center and other CIDs and cities have with a specific company.
Yes, ma'am. So right now, we've tried to make sure that we handle that and work with the companies that are in place. I can get more information on that for you.
Okay. But the CIDs have seen,
Yeah, we've worked with Cumberland and with Town Center CID
Okay.
on this, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions? Yes. Commissioner Cupid?
What benchmarks did we use for this ordinance? Did we look at the existing agreements or any others?
We did, but then we looked nationally also at how other jurisdictions are handling bike share within the nation when we helped create this ordinance. Yes, ma'am.
And then I have a question about some of the stats provided on page 9. And we can talk about this offline. It's just not clear to me, the minimum and maximum per operator.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, and
Okay,
it just looks like there's some overlap there. Okay,
okay.
thank you.
Any other questions?
Oh, I do have another question.
Sure.
Yeah, the operating zones, it said it'll have a marker to determine where the bikes are. Can the bikes be taken off of a particular path or sidewalk if they're in a radius, or if someone travels outside of what's designated a specific path or trail?
I think that's one of our hopes is that we'll be able to cross jurisdictions also. So
Okay.
they can go from Marietta to, to Smyrna or places like that, and we'll be able to monitor that.
If it's the same
Eventually.
company, which Zaxter is the company that does Town Center and Cumberland,
So that is one, yes,
they,
ma'am.
they can check it out from Town Center and end up at Cumberland and return it,
They could.
because they're locked.
But it wouldn't limit it to just Dexter.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then there are a lot of requirements for how the bike should be used or parked, standing up or a certain way.
Yes, ma'am.
Who's responsible for that? Is it that operator to
It is
ensure
their
that that
operator.
individual?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
And we can contact them to notify them that their bikes are improperly placed, and they have a certain amount of time to rectify that, and if not, then our county staff can go and pick those up, and we can charge them for that time.
okay, and this terminology used, balance, the bike is balanced, does that mean if it's standing upright?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Erica.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and then Jason Gaines, our planning division manager, will cover the purpose-built student housing code amendment.
Thank you, Michael. Good evening, Commissioners, County Manager. These proposed changes to Chapter 134 of the zoning code for Cobb County are in regards to purpose-built student housing. Just to give a brief recap as to how we got here, my staff in 2018 put together an analysis or study of purpose-built student housing. It was basically designed as a case study to look at other college towns in the Southeast to see how they've addressed this particular issue, and just to try to learn from them and to try to structure ourselves in a way that we could address the issue as it continues to proliferate around the Kennesaw State University area as that campus continues to grow. So we did that in 2018. This past January, we brought forward a proposed code amendment to create an overlay district in the vicinity around Kennesaw State University to help address some of the concerns. That proposal didn't have the support to go forward, so it was pulled. We went back and came up with a new proposal, which we are presenting as part of this package of code amendments. So the first thing we did was to define the term purpose-built student housing. We've been talking about this phenomenon for at least 5 or 6 years now as KSU has continued to grow. We didn't have anything defining it in our code. We just looked at it as multifamily apartment type housing. So the first thing was for us to actually come up with a definition for purpose-built student housing, which you see on the screen in front of you. We've added that to 134.1, which is definitions covering the whole code. And we've also added the same definition to the sections for the zoning districts in which purpose-built student housing will be allowed. And I'll get a little bit more into that briefly. So the first step was the definition. The second step was to identify zoning districts, next slide please, to identify zoning districts in which this use would be a fit or would be appropriate. So the ones on the screen before you are those that we are recommending for inclusion of this as an allowed use, and there's more to that as well. I'll get into it shortly. And again, for each of the code sections referencing these zoning districts, the definition for purpose-built student housing is listed. Next slide, please. Okay. So the third and final piece of this is to utilize the provisions for the special land use permit and to add purpose-built student housing as a use requiring a special land use permit. All of the zoning districts that you saw on the previous slide would be subject, this use, purpose-built student housing, would be subject to getting a special land use permit in order to be allowed in those zoning districts. So utilizing the SLUP, which gives additional rules, provisions for development of sites to include purpose-built student housing was part of this, and it was just designed to kind of add an extra safeguard to make it compatible with surrounding uses. So that's essentially what we did. The Planning Commission has their monthly hearing next Tuesday, June 4th, and at that time, we'll present these same items to them, and they will, as is their custom, offer feedback and recommendations to the board on how to act going forward. So with that, I'll stand for any questions.
Thank you, Jason, and thank you to staff for helping us draft these and get the word out. We did have a stakeholders meeting on May 9th and got some good feedback from the stakeholders, KSU, Bells Ferry Civic, Pine Tree Civic, Police, Precinct 1, and KSU as well. So we have had some feedback in writing from the Bells Ferry Civic, and I encourage everyone else to look at these and see if you have any comments. And we will have another public hearing at the June 11th meeting and then vote at the June 25th meeting, or just?
No, it'll just go to June 25th, ma'am. But in between, the Planning Commission will hear it next Tuesday at their monthly
The
hearing.
Planning Commission, that's right. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the commissioners? Okay, thanks, Jason.
Thank you.
The next section of proposed changes relate to the donation Dropbox ordinance. Changes here result basically in an overhaul of this ordinance. They are brought about as a result of threatened litigation, specifically addressing First Amendment speech issues. So what we've done is we've gone back through the code section. We've weighed the public interest in safety, welfare, those type of matters against the commercial speech interest. And we're confident that we have a defensible policy. And we have also conferred with the individuals who have threatened litigation and worked with them on this to see if they saw any other issues. And we're confident that the product we presented to you is a defensible product.
Okay. Questions from the board?
We did have some comments from the Mapleton Improvement District on this too.
Yes, I have seen that.
Okay.
Right.
Or did you,
Sure, Commissioner
do you
Cooper.
say Mapleton Improvement? Oh, yes, the coalition. Will those be weighed with our next iteration of this regarding placement?
Yes.
Okay. And then there's also a registration period of 5 years. Is there a reason why that length of time is stated?
I'm sorry.
There's a registration period for 5 years for the Dropboxes. Is there a reason why we chose that length of time?
I don't know that there's necessarily a reason, and I think that's a negotiable point.
Yeah, I'd like to look at that too, just because.
You would like to look at it in terms of shortening?
Shorten, definitely, yeah, in light of the issues that we've had.
Okay, so I think that's all the items, right? Okay, so same rules apply, unlimited number of speakers. Please let us know who you are, where you live, 3 minutes per speaker. And with that, I now declare this public hearing open on proposed code changes. Amy, please.
Hey, my name is Amy Barnes. I'm from Southwest Cobb. I noticed that there were a number of new, seemingly interesting improvements. The food hall, I don't really understand why we need an ordinance declaring what a food hall is when basically every single mall in the entire country is basically the same thing as this ordinance. So that is basically a waste of time and money and regulation. We have this bike share program. Quite honestly, I have seen some terrifying things happen with people on bicycles. they will run straight up, cut me off, and run through stop signs when I drive all throughout Atlanta and sometimes through Cobb. I don't know what you guys plan on doing insofar as requiring people to prove that they know basic rules of the road. I'm tempted to say they need to pass some kind of test or some kind of basic educational module like Uber does. Uber has its own education program for its drivers. Well, if rideshare people are going to be engaging in the rental of bicycles, we don't know how many yahoos are just going to pop on a bike. And who knows how many accidents might happen because people are ignorant. I'm very reticent to support bike share, particularly when I can't even ride my own bicycle on Cobb County roads because, well, I've been hit 4 times by vehicles intentionally. Drivers don't care about bicyclists. So it looks to me like people are going to get thrown literally into the danger zone. I mean, in some areas, we can't even walk without getting hit. One of my best friends died 4 times on the operating table, and all he was doing was walking. So now we're going to have more people on a bike share? This needs to be looked at a little more closer. In the purpose-built student housing, I'm against that because I see what happened with the strippage of land use rights. People with an extra room can't rent out because the new ban on extra people living in housing. Well, it's not new, but I disagree with the student housing. We already have apartments that do this. So why a new classification? Why are we wasting time on something that already has existed for since the beginning of mankind? And the donation Dropbox ordinance, hello taxation. I think that this is another way to tax. Now, I mean, those things are annoying, but who cares? They're boxes. You know, actually, when I look at it, every single mailbox posted out there by the post office qualifies. If you look at how it's used. So anyway, that's my comments.
Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. Any further comments? Seeing none, I'll now declare this public hearing closed. And we're on to public comments. So we have 18, is that correct? So I'd like to propose is we split it up into 9 and 9 in 3 minutes each. That'll be the same amount of times if we did 12 with 5. Does that work with everybody from the board?
I always prefer them together. It's always my
Sorry?
preference.
Well, I'm hoping they can't do the math like I can do the math. Anyway, I think that if we have 18 signed up, so we want to encourage people to talk, but we have other business here too. So if we split it up, 9 the first block and 9 the second block, and we do 3 minutes each. That's what I'm proposing. 3.
Did those who signed up provide what they're speaking to? Are there any that are specific to an agenda item?
No, I don't think it works that way.
I'm not able to tell from the sign-up sheets.
So, okay, so let's go. Let's get this started. The first 9, Commissioner Deborah. Please let us know who you are. Just know who you are, where you live. I'm loosening my tie, and 3 minutes.
The first speaker is David Birkenbein.
Wait a minute, we're going to give David 5.
I'm sure he was.
Because of this.
I'm sure.
Well, you got your original spot back. I'm glad to see that, David.
And I do support public safety because this is what outdoor burning is all about.
Okay.
So
All right.
we need to
You did a
speak
magnificent
out
job
for all of
last
it.
time.
Because what does it say right there? Safeguard the public health, safety, comfort, and quality conditions, citizens on incorporated Cobb County.
All right.
And thank you for the shout out last meeting, but we have problems. The code is controlling. It's controlling. It's better than the state. It's got more restrictions than the state. Outdoor burning tells you what it does. It lets all go out in the air. Here's your restrictions on outdoor burning, restrictions that are exemptions. That's a state idea. Burning prohibitions, why do we have burning prohibitions if we're not gonna promote the health, safeguard, public safety? Why do you have no burning allowed on windy days? Why do you have no burning allowed when the atmospheric conditions are cloudy, overcast is prevalent and you see smoke all over the place? Anyway, make a long story short, the penalties, how can you violate 54-113, 54-114 without burning? It doesn't make sense. Stop and think. Stop and think that the fire chief makes a ban. He made the ban, outdoor burning ban for medical people, and they don't want to enforce it. Turned in by medical applications. They don't want to enforce it. Signed by the fire marshal. They don't want to enforce it. They want to put stipulations on something they already gave them after I gripe. It's all about, we're fighting back and forth. I don't know, it's at a point that we're going to have to do something. I don't know if it's the salary gap between the board and what we pay the enforcers. I don't know what it is, but y'all need to grasp a hold of this code. Y'all need to look at this code, and we need to get it right. Because as far as I'm concerned, the whims of an elite few or the dictates of the collective will is at work here within your government. I don't care what you say, because I have been at the front line on this thing. I have been abused by this thing, and no more. No more. We need to do something, and we need to do it now. And that's supporting public safety for everybody. Me, you, everybody. And they need to do their job and do it. Thank you.
Thank you, David.
The next speaker is Mitch Roden.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, Mr. Hosak. I'm here this evening on behalf, in my capacity as Chairman of the Cobb Chamber of Commerce, and I want to just communicate our support for this initiative to provide a one-time merit-based increase for our public safety officials. At the Chamber, we represent the business community, and we understand that none of what we do can happen without a strong public safety force in place. And the community that we all enjoy and prosper in is provided by our public safety officials. And as we all understand, we have some room to grow in terms of being competitive in our compensation package for our public safety officials, fire, police, first responders, et cetera. So I just want to express the support on behalf of the Chamber and the business community that I would ask you to vote yes for this amendment to, for this proposal for a one-time merit-based increase, with the understanding that this is a step towards addressing the overall compensation issue, not the ultimate solution, but one step in the right direction towards making Cobb more competitive with our neighbors as it relates to compensation. So thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Roden.
All right.
The next speaker is David Jones. David Jones.
Thank you for your time. I'm David Jones. I'm pastor of Macklin Presbyterian Church. I live and work here in Cobb County. I've been here for 3 years. And in the churches that I've served up until now, we have taken that the greatest is among us is our servant to heart, and we've also tried to serve the servants. And so we've tried to care for the caregivers. I experienced Hurricane Hugo early in my ministry on the coast of South Carolina. I experienced floods in Nashville. And in those opportunities, I cared for caregivers. When I was in Orlando as a pastor, I was 1.5 miles from the Pulse nightclub shooting. I saw the effect that that kind of an event has on first responders, and I've still tried to do that. 3 weeks ago, I was in Las Vegas. I had the opportunity to visit Station 11, which is right near where the shooting was in Vegas. When I was there, as a fireman told me, he said, when you go to a fire station, don't just take cookies or cake, take milk. Because people bring cookies and cake all the time, but they don't bring milk. But if you ask the firemen, they'll tell you, what we need is milk. And so being a resident here, I've asked the first responders, and I've asked them what their needs are. And I take this to heart. For if we're going to be and make Cobb County the goal for people to safely work, live, play, and pursue our dreams, then we have to care for the caregivers. So I want to encourage you as you consider next year's budget, going beyond the merit increase. I want to say that within our county, low salaries make it impossible for first responders of our community to live in the neighborhoods that they serve. And as an observer, as somebody cares for caregivers, I don't believe that's acceptable. Changes in the pension plan has forced skilled leaders to look for work elsewhere, to places where their experience is respected and better compensated. I don't believe that's acceptable. Small incremental increases in pay have not kept up with the market, and that's sent skilled leaders to look for work elsewhere. As I understand it, 12 years ago, the starting salary was $37,000, and here 12 years later, it's $40,000. Adjusted for inflation, that's 25% less than it was 12 years ago. Caring for the caregivers in our community, I've seen how the trauma to responding in times of crisis without proper support can affect in rates of heart attack and suicide and other issues. So I ask you, to make our community safer, let's care for the caregivers. Let's put this at the top of our agenda, because if we're going to live up to that dream, then we got to live up to this goal. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor.
The next speaker is Dr. Ben Williams.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Good evening. I want to take a few minutes to.
3, Mr. Williams.
Okay,
3, Dr.
I'm
Williams.
going to reclaim the time now. You can talk with me all you want. Okay. But it won't take me long. The board will be entertaining action tonight for a new chief of police. I am one of those who I think spends a considerable amount of my volunteer time working with our police department. And over the years that I've been here, the last 15 years, in the last couple of years, I think it's fair to say I have seen a number of excellent changes in the culture of our police department towards the end of it really being an operation that appears to be strengthening positive relationships in the community. I think we all agree we'll never have enough cops. Cops and community really is what we want. Some specifics. I've noticed, along with some of my other colleagues, a change in the practice of policing in our county. That's one, real key. Second, the degree of transparency that I think has made all of us more comfortable with what's happening with police in their interaction with the community. Third thing, I did some training once with the military, and if you want to talk about a tough group for civilians to have access to, look at former military organizations. The next toughest would be paramilitary organizations like our police department. But there's been an openness to invite members of the community in to look at training and even participating in the training that's provided to our law enforcement personnel. The information system has improved considerably. As we sit and talk, we are now talking about important data that is useful for those of us in the community to know, and certainly that data ought to be available to the officers who are on the beat.
Thank you, Dr. Williams.
I think Mr. Roden will give you 30 seconds of his time.
Well, thank you so much. Okay, thank you so
And
much.
five that I took from you, so 35
You did,
seconds.
you did, okay. But anyway, and finally, the formation of the precinct discussion groups, which is another network that enables citizens to meet at the precinct level about policing. Chief Cox, Deputy Chief Cox, is someone who I believe is the right person at this time in order to provide the continuity for the changes that are taking place in our district. So I would strongly urge you, let's all stand for continuity and stability, and let's keep the progress going. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Williams.
Next speaker is Lance Larusso.
Good evening. I'm Lance Larusso. I'm the General Counsel for the Georgia Fraternal Order of Police. I represent a lot of firefighters here, and I own a law firm in Cobb County. I was sworn in to be a Cobb County police officer in December of 1988, and I've witnessed this issue we're going through at least 5 times. Probably happened more than that, but I might have been too young to be understanding what was going on, or too young to be involved, or too busy to be involved working part-time jobs. Right now, you're considering a one-time bonus and a 7% increase. That's a start. But make it a gesture of faith and not a contract. Because if you make it a contract and you're forcing people to give you more faith, the fact that they're here, you already have their commitment. They're looking for a commitment from you. We're talking about something going forward. We need a step and grade program, so we're not kicking the can down the road and continuing to deal with this over and over and over again. We need to remove the uncertainty from the equation that's going on right now. We need to focus on public safety, police, fire, and the sheriff's office. That's where the pinch point is. We're not having a problem recruiting other people. The dangers to them, the dangers to the public is where the pinch point is. Public safety is different. I've never been to a monument or an annual service to honor fallen Cobb County employees in general, but I've been to services to honor firefighters and police officers who died in the line of duty. If Cobb is going to act like a business, then they need to focus on what the problem is. The public safety presence that you see now and what you've been seeing at these meetings is a function of being ignored or not being taken seriously. And these folks should not have to be here when they should be with their families to be treated well or being taken seriously. You took some public hits and you learned how serious the problem is, and some of you fought back and you got your feelings hurt. But now it's time to go forward, decisively go forward with a step and grade program, so we're not dealing with this situation another couple of years. You can deny the title of a crisis, but it is a crisis. We're dealing with open beats, we're dealing with people that don't have backup, and I would encourage you to realize that nobody would tolerate that in their business, and their business is staying alive every day. But the label of a crisis or not a crisis doesn't matter. Fix it for years to come. You've listened, partly because you didn't have a choice, partly because some of you wanted to hear it, but now it's time to act. We're cautiously optimistic, and we're watching carefully. A lot of people in the business community are watching carefully. It's time to step up and fix it now with a goal, a very simple goal, that this commission needs to set forth one singular goal that Cobb County will be the best and most sought-after county to work in of 159 counties in Georgia. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
The next speaker is Stephen Gaynor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, County Manager. My name is Stephen Gaynor. I'm the Cobb County President of the Fraternal Order of Police, and I come before you today just to thank you for finally listening to our thoughts and our prayers, and we hope that you will go forward with the $1,475 proposal with no contract to it. It is a good start. It is what we've been asking. And the further plans that you've been talking about and discussing for your retreat to come up, I believe, in July, is really rewarding for us. We hope that you will continue forward with that. Talk about the 7% for public safety and include 911 in that, as well as police, fire, and the sheriff, and help us get the staffing we need to provide the citizens and the businesses in Cobb County the proper safety and protection. So thank you. I wanted to come before you. I've been complaining for months, but I want to come before you today to say thank you, and please keep the process going. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gaynor.
The next speaker is John Brady.
Thank you very much. Good evening. My name is John Brady. I've lived in North Cobb County since 1978. I retired from Cobb County Fire Department with 35 years of service 2 years ago. That same year, I became the president of the International Association of Firefighters local right here in Cobb County. I'd like to say the proposal that's been put forward is a good step in the right direction. I think you're good. I thank you for your good faith effort in doing that. It's going to help solve the problem of retracting and retaining our employees. And I think retaining is still an issue, just as attracting employees. And for all the public safety departments. The Firefighters Union stands ready with the FOP to help find other ways to accomplish these tasks if we can. Cobb Professional Firefighters has been working very hard to come up with a step and grade plan in which we've presented through our chain of command. First, the fire administration, and we met with the public safety director the other day. We're working to tweak it a little bit to where we can include all the police ranks and fire ranks and the ranks within the SO. We'll be getting that to you. I think we've spoken with 2 or 3 of you guys already about this. We haven't got the entire thing laid out yet, but we should have it just within a few weeks. We've had a chance to just, let's see, anyway, that's all I got to say. Thank y'all in advance for the advocacy towards public safety personnel.
Thank you, sir.
The next speaker is Jorge, and I'm not sure what your last name is, so if you signed up, please come forward.
Hello, my name's Jorge Bello. I'm here to talk about kind of public safety, right? So I've lived in Georgia for the last 23 years, and of those 23
You live
years,
in Cobb, sir? You live in Cobb County?
currently I do not. I work in Cobb County.
Just curious.
I've worked in Cobb County for the last 5 years.
Okay.
For the last 23 years, though, I have lived in Georgia, and I've been stopped only in one county, and that's the county, Cobb County, that has 287G. That same county that has 287G has broken up my friends and my family. It's a racist policy that makes Cobb County less safe by creating a fear of climate with those who are supposed to be protected and served by Cobb County. 287G is an expensive and unnecessary agreement between the federal government and ICE, which puts the burden on our local law enforcement to enforce federal law. It leads to over-policing of brown communities. In this room, we have a bunch of public safety officials looking for funding. We are wasting millions of dollars, including my tax dollars because I work here, millions of dollars paying for the federal government's issues that, if we get sued, aren't going to be covered by the federal government, it's going to be covered by Cobb County. I'm asking that you guys end that and give the money to working class people, right? You guys are looking for money? Yeah, well, there it is, millions of dollars being wasted. It puts a strain on our families, right? So it breaks up families. It puts a strain on the education system by making it harder for parents when they're single family homes. It puts our public safety people at risk more because they also have to deal with an increase of crime, right? Because people are scared to call the police if they don't trust them because they think they're gonna end up being deported. It's bad for Georgia. It's bad for Cobb County. We started this meeting with a prayer, right? But we ignore Leviticus. Leviticus 19:33 says, when a foreigner resides amongst you in your land, do not mistreat them. The foreigner resides amongst you must be treated as a native born. Love them as yourself, for you were a foreigner in Egypt. I am the Lord your God. Let's do better for Cobb County and do better for folks because the law, we need to end it. We need to finish that contract and not fund it for sure.
Thank you, sir.
The next speaker is Kevin Jochin.
Good evening, dear Board of Commissioners. My name is Kevin Huachin. I live in Summit Forest Drive in West Marietta. I am here to ask that this board not approve the budget for the 287G in the following months. The policy 287G harms and separates families by allowing cooperation with ICE. I see how the policy affects my friends and neighbors who are undocumented and live in this area. These loved ones have had to change their entire lifestyle because they live in fear from encountering law enforcement, an authority that the community is supposed to trust. In 2018 alone, over 400 people were arrested under the 287G policy in Cobb County. This number does not only represent the hundreds of people who were processed for deportation, but over 400 families who have suffered detrimental loss because their loved ones were separated from them. Family separation isn't only happening at the border. It is happening here in Cobb County, and we must do what we can to stop it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And the reason we ask for your name is that we always write a thank you letter for you showing up and making a comment today. So that's the reason we ask for your name. Just there's no other purpose. So.
Those are your first 9 speakers.
Okay, all right. Okay, a couple admin notes before we get into the meeting, the further part of the meeting here on the agenda. Items 45 and 46 on the regular, they're being pulled tonight or rescheduled for a later date. They're not ready for prime time. And we have a number of revisions, not a number of revisions, but we have some revisions on the consent agenda. So as we scroll through the consent items tonight, I would just like you to, those who are taking notes, would like you to look at consent item number 16 and 17. Those had some revisions in them. And also, those are the two. The rest we discussed earlier today during the agenda prep. So we're going to scroll through the consent agenda items, and then I'll call for a vote on them. Okay, with that, I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as revised.
Second.
Any discussion? Call the question. Passes 5-0. Thank you. All right, now we're on to regular. And the first one, county manager.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Excuse me. Tonight, our first agenda item on regular, the regular agenda is to request that the board approve a non-cumulative payment to sworn staff in the police department, sheriff's office, and fire department, as well as some revisions to the compensation policy and our employee pension plan. I did want to give the board some background on this. Tonight, Chairman and Commissioners, we opted to begin the first step, and I do emphasize first step, of our public safety pay plan improvement process with this effort. And it really is a way to acknowledge that public safety has had to work real hard in these last years in light of significant vacancies that they have experienced. They have done so with success and honor. We also thought that this item tonight was a way to just kind of start out with a small thank you to serve, for serving or for doing more with less in light of these vacancies. I did want to mention that these one-time cumulative payments for fire and police are going to be funded through savings that we've realized from these vacant positions. I did want to mention also that the sheriff's office also was projected to show a significant savings from vacant positions as well. However, there are many deputy sheriffs that are in the sheriff's office that have to do constitutionally mandated duties. And because of that, they have not had as much flexibility and have had to experience some overtime or increased overtime use. I think this, coupled with the fact that the sheriff's office also has to attempt to balance their budget with a few unknowns, such as inmate medical costs that are out of their control, as well as inmate mental health costs, which are also out of their control, led to some of the savings that they've realized from the vacant positions having to be applied to those particular items. When Chairman Boyce asked me to prepare this agenda item, I probably should have included that background in the agenda item itself. The money that's being appropriated from the general fund tonight for the payment to the sheriff's personnel is due solely to the increased costs that are really out of control of the sheriff's office, such as the extra overtime, the unknown inmate medical expenses, as well as the unknown inmate medical costs. My apologies to Sheriff Warren. I should have done a little better job preparing the agenda item for presentation to the board, but did want to call that to the board's attention. With that said, Mr. Chairman, we would recommend that the board authorize measures to provide a $1,475 one-time cumulative-based merit-based payment to sworn staff in the police department and sheriff's office, as well as certified staff in the fire department who had a satisfactory or higher performance rating in 2018 during the 2018 rating period. Approved the revision that's included in the printed agenda to the compensation plan. Further, to authorize staff to begin the necessary 60-day announcement period to alter our pension plan to make the necessary pension changes, and further authorize myself and the county staff to bring back items at a later date to approve both the pension plan and authorize specifically the authorized payments that we've discussed this evening, sir.
Okay, so moved.
Second.
And sure, absolutely. Commissioner Burrow, go ahead.
Mr. Hozak and Mr. Volkman, we had a question after agenda prep today regarding the full-time sworn officers and the one-time bonus here. I've been told there are about 25 part-time sworn officers, so I'd like to see what that amount would be to include the part-time sworn officers as well.
Yes, ma'am. And Mr. Volkman and I had discussed that after the agenda work session this morning. We don't believe that'll be a problem, and we'll note, we'll make sure that we follow up with all 5 board members as it relates to the cost of that, Commissioner Burrow, for the one-time merit, the cumulative payment.
For the part-time. Thank you.
Commissioner Cooper? Sure.
There was some robust discussion this morning about this particular tab, and want to share with those who are here that all the commissioners have been looking to see how we can address the pay disparity amongst those who are in public safety, and how we get to a point of addressing some of the gaps that have been identified. Initially, this has been part of our budget discussion that we have in July, but due to the imperative that has been communicated by the presence of those who are in public safety or or supporters, the exigence was there for us to consider this action item now. Throughout the years that I've been here as a commissioner, I've always felt that there's a symbiotic relationship between the commissioners and our employees. When there are issues that our constituents have or going on in our communities, I feel that our staff is an extension of our ability to follow through on those requests. And I've always been an advocate for our employees and always have been an advocate for public safety, recognizing the work that's been done. Even with the amount of adversity that has transpired, I think that I've shown myself to be an advocate for those in public safety. So there has been some discussion today with respect to this agenda item and having a contract associated with it. We have been experiencing a tremendous amount of turnover in public safety within the county and within all of our agencies. And the action tonight is putting us in a position to consider how we pay employees differently and uniquely to recognize the concerns, but it's also requiring us to change our pay policy to look at this at a time where we're hemorrhaging all throughout the county. And I just want to share some figures with you. In the sheriff's office for fiscal year 2018, we've had a turnover of 12.7% employees. And I just picked the 5 departments across the county by the 5 largest departments to show the level of disparity. The sheriff's office has had 12.7% turnover, police 11.2%, parks 12%, water 20.8%, DOT 22.9% turnover throughout the organization. Every time we turn right to left, we are seeing people that we depend on and rely on to provide services to the public leaving the county, and it's creating a gap. We've received correspondence from employees that are noting the disparity and their concern about us not looking about how we all have worked together as a county, that we're all a team in supporting public safety and in supporting Cobb County. When I looked at the highest turnover rates across all of our agencies, not our largest departments, in probate court, we've had a turnover of 61%. In human resources, we've had a turnover of 28%. In the clerk's office, 25%. In the county manager's office, it's 25%, just one person. But overall, DOT has had the largest turnover across all of our agencies at a tune of 23% in the county. I tend to look at this matter holistically because to me, we're here to advocate for the service of all of our constituents. And I'm hoping that as we consider the uniqueness of this measure, that we look at the hemorrhaging across all of Cobb County and the concerns expressed by all of our employees in the employee survey, which denotes just morale challenges throughout our entire organization. And again, some which have been commenting about pay raises not having been received in some agencies for 3 of the past 11 years, as one employee has provided. I definitely am in support of this action item, but as a sign of good faith for us not to continue to be here in June, where we're providing a $1,475 increase. To me, it's important to see some commitment that we're not going to be hemorrhaging when that time comes. And here's why. When speakers have come to the county, they said our officers are leaving to go to other places because they're being paid better. So when I added in the $1,475 to the certified pay of Cobb County officers of $44,014, there is still a significant delta to all the agencies that has been shared that people have been going to. To the city of Atlanta, that delta is going to be $6,970. Brookhaven, the delta will still be $6,970. Roswell, $635. Sandy Springs, $3,620. So even with this pay increase, that is still not getting to the heart of why people are saying we're losing officers. Another thing that has been shared about why we're losing officers has to do with the amount of vacancies that we've had. We're using the pay from vacancies to increase pay of existing officers. So to me, this pay increase, again, while it's good for us to do something, it's not only having a significant delta across those cities that were hemorrhaging officers, but we're also using vacancy pay to increase pay of existing officers, which means that there's still going to be people doing a lot more with less. And to me, as a commissioner and being a fiscal agent of this county, I have to be concerned that even if we increase pay, that we can still lose officers under these conditions. So know that I am here in full support. I've always supported pay of employees. I will continue to do that. I know you do a hard work, but we need help too to know that we're not going to continue to lose you. And so to me, it would have been awesome to have time to have negotiated this a little bit more as we've been talking about commissioners, about what we'll do in the future. I'm certainly a great supporter of the pay and step that has been proposed, and some of the other initiatives across the county, but I'm hoping that we will do something robust with our budget on an ongoing basis so that we can get to root cause of why it's been shared that officers are leaving. So I just want to iterate my concerns because I just want it to be fully out there. And again, let you know I'm in support of tonight's budget, but we have some significant issues that are still going to be left on the table.
Okay, before we call the question here, a couple things. First of all, I want to thank Mr. Larusso and Mr. Gaynor for their comments tonight. I think look, this is Cobb County. We always have what I call respectful discussions. There, as I've been speaking, especially with Steve, and is Susan here tonight, Stephen? Oh, so I'm sorry, how can I not recognize you? I apologize. How about Kim Peace Hill? Is she here tonight also? Okay. Those three have carried the ball for the last, 4 months? And we've now got right at a level where we've had movement, and I think the movement has come because of the efforts of Steve and Susan particularly, and Kim also. I want to commend them on taking time out of their lives, particularly Susan and Kim, because this is not their natural gig, whereas Stephen, as the head of the FOP, of course, he's one of your responsibilities. But your comments tonight are really appreciated, because what we have now is what I have is a conversation where both sides are seeing we're going to finally reach to something what I call compromise, the oxygen of democracy. The second thing is this is the very first step in a multiple step approach that I think you're going to bear fruit from your efforts. You will see fruit from your efforts. I'm very confident when the board goes to vote on this at the end of July. We have a work session at the end of June to talk about the various options for the multiple step approach we're going to have. The 1475 tonight is the first step. I would love to do this tonight, but in order for us not to get this as part of the pension plan and further adverse impact on the pension plan, which we already know, all right, we're making progress, but it's still tenuous. We do not want to add this to the pension plan. In order for us not to do that, requires a 60-day period of discussion. It's called the law. So trust me, I think if we had a chance tonight to vote on the 1475, we would gladly sit right here and dole it out if we could. But we have to have the 60-day grace period for public comment on that. And then in another 30 days, you'll hear the other aspects of the discussion for the compensation. This is government. We're not business where we can just sort of jump around here and just pull money out of a hat. The bottom line here is we had the discussion today during the agenda prep. Yes, and Susan, you made it very clear, and I think Kim did also a couple months ago, that we are in fact using unfunded programs or funded programs to help pay for this. But the reality is, and this month, those who don't have it, Chief Register put out a really interesting report on the police department. And in here, it has a very interesting graph that talks about that we're fishing from a much smaller pool of people to pull from to go to the mandates. Whereas 3 years ago, we could pull from 1,000. This year, we're lucky to pull from 300. And that's because we have high standards. And speaking from one who 50 years ago joined the military where we lowered our standards and paid the price. We never want to lower our standards. And our standards are one of the reasons we have difficulty recruiting people. And that's a story in itself. So what I'm saying is that there are multiple elements to the story, but if you're patient just a little bit along, another 30 days, I think that you'll see that we're making those necessary steps so that in July here, when we vote on the millage rate and on the budget, we will have something that will be something we can be proud of because we did it collectively together. And we worked at this from the public side and from the board side. And by working this effort together, we'll finally arrive at something, which is my commitment to all of you is, you know, even no matter what we vote on this summer, we're going to try and do better again next year, okay? Because I believe this county is going to be able to do something next year because of the incredible economic prosperity we have here. That's just my voice of commitment. I always tell everybody, I'm only one vote, but we are making an effort, and I think that we're going to make progress here. So I appreciate your comments tonight. And with that, I call the question. Passes 5-0. And anybody that would like a copy of this report, I have them right up here. Come get them during the break, okay? So let's go on to the second one, which is number 26, the recommendation of the appointment of a chief of police.
Good evening again, Mr. Chairman. Our second agenda item tonight is for the board to consider the appointment of, Charles Tim Cox to be our new chief of police for Cobb County. We have attached a memo from both myself and Mr. Register recommending that appointment to the Board of Commissioners. And I would like to yield some time very briefly to Director Register just to allow him to provide some additional background information, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. County Manager. You know, when we look at the police department in Cobb County today, I think that we see a police department that is evolving with the environment that we are currently operating in. And I think that the evolution is needed. And I think that that evolution will need to continue. The police department, not just the Cobb County Police Department, but every police department in the country struggles with balancing, enforcing laws, and also engaging with the community that it serves and protecting that fragile relationship. As Dr. Williams had stated earlier tonight, I'm very proud of not what I did, but what the Cobb County Police Department did over the last couple of years in new initiatives and implementing new programs of engagement with the community, new units within the police department. And one person that was instrumental in that was Deputy Chief Cox. And I believe that also at this time in the Cobb County Police Department that an air of stability is needed. I think the men and women deserve to have that stability, and I think they deserve to have a leader that will keep them on the course that we are on now. And my recommendation for Chief Cox was based on my want to give stability to this department, but not only that, but to give a man that the whole police department respects. He's given over 34 years of his life to the police department. He has served honorably. He has served in every echelon of command. He has came up through the ranks. I have learned an awful lot from him. And I think that this is the second time that he has been the interim chief. And I think that everyone can agree the first time that he was the interim chief that he kept the police department stabilized. Second time now that he is the interim chief, not only has he kept the department stabilized, but he's also wanting to look for new ways to make the department better. I was the chief, now I'm the director, and I hope that when I left, people knew that I really cared about this department. And I hope that they can honestly say that they believe that Chief Register left it better than he found it, which in turn, I believe I am recommending a man at the end of his tenure, everyone will say, Tim Cox cared about this department, he cared about this community, he cared about people. And I also believe that at the end of his tenure, people will honestly say that he left it better than he found it. So I would ask that you approve Chief Cox as our new police chief, permanent police chief for the Cobb County Police Department. Thank you.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, Commissioner Ott?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In my time up here on the commission, I've had the opportunity, or actually the privilege, of working with Tim in his many different roles, but in particular when he was Precinct 4 Commander. And I can think of no better person. He is a stabilizing force, as the director said. He's been the go-to person. Regardless of the position that he was in, every time he went to go fix something, it got fixed, it got better. And so I strongly support making Tim Cox the chief.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Burrow?
Thank you. I wholeheartedly agree. I've known Chief Cox since my tenure here, and he is the voice of experience and knowledge in the police department, the calming presence and stability that we need right now, and he is the best candidate. And I wholeheartedly support him for police chief. And I just want to add one thing. Is Dr. Ben Williams still here? Or did he leave? He's still here. Thank you, sir, for your comments tonight. I couldn't agree with you anymore. Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you, Commissioner Burrow. Commissioner Campbell?
Yes, I'd like to say I support the appointment of Mr. Cox as chief, and I've appreciated Director Register and also Chief Cox and the other deputies that have taken the time and really explained and shown me our public safety and how it works. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Gamble. Commissioner Cupid?
Thank you, Chairman. I think all of us here appreciate Chief Cox and his willingness to step up and serve as interim chief in at more than one circumstance. As I've shared with the board at Agenda Prep, and I've shared with Chief Register, and unfortunately staff this morning, that I'm in a position where I have more concerns about this process than I have concerns at the individual. I don't question Chief Cox's ability to step up and serve, but in determination of this role, I don't understand how we moved from our contemplation of how we would fill this position to where we are today. And I'm a person who's been up here an advocate of process because I've seen how we provide opportunity for the whole when we have processes that ensure inclusion of the whole and consideration of the whole. And in my last communication about this position, it was going to be an open position that was advertised to the public. And we have had 42 people apply for this position while it's been advertised, to all of a sudden it being closed, and that this was while we've had discussions about the turnover in the department. And I just don't know where the breakdown in communications has come from. I'd like to think that I've had some help in our current public safety director being where he is, which was a result of that being an open process. And I just trust the process that we'll always be able to choose the right person, that they will rise to the top. And with this particular circumstances, although we've appointed people in the past, I've never seen us have discussion from the board to open up a position and then to not come back to the board to have it closed and appoint someone. So I cannot support this process. I do look forward to working with Chief Cox, however. I've worked with him in the past. I don't lack confidence in his ability to lead, but I do have question about how we moved forward in this manner within a very short duration, which did not provide the public, to me, the amount of time to vet somebody who has a significant role in the public arena. And, you know, we took that matter seriously when we chose our prior police chief, now public safety director, and there's no reason to me why we could not have gone through with that same process with this with this position today.
Thank you, Commissioner. My other comment is I think that Chief Cox has really shown his belief in the future of the Cobb County Police Department by his decision to remain with us for, how long is this period of time for? 2 years, 3 years? However he wants?
Chief Cox had committed 3 years. sir.
3 years. I think that just shows a lot. Here's a man who could retire and retire on, on the old system, and has decided to stay with us for 3 more years to carry the vision forward that was started on the Chief Register. And I think that really says a lot about the man we're about to vote on here tonight. So with that, I call the question. And it passes 4-1 with Commissioner Cupid in opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
With that, is Chief Cox here?
I believe Chief Cox is here with his family.
Bring him up. Bring him up.
Hey, Jenny. Hey, Jenny.
Bring the family. Bring the family. They're gonna come down, absolutely. There you go.
I'm sorry, I got 2 more.
He's bringing them out of the woodwork. This is all yours.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Commissioners. I'm humbled by the support that the board has shown today. I'm honored to be a part of this great police department. This is the only police department I've ever worked for. It's the only one I've ever wanted to work for. It's an awesome department, great men and women, and this is not about me. This is about the department. I am only one person. This department and the men and women that work in this department are what makes us great. The reason I wanted all my family up here, I owe a debt of gratitude to some individuals up here. One being my wife. She has dealt with a lot. She's put up with some weird hours, weird assignments, loss of holidays, and without her, this would be nothing. My mother and father, my dad's a retiree from the city of Atlanta. He's the one that really inspired me to become to serve in a organization that is service-minded. My youngest son, Joshua, he's with the fire department. I know we have jokes about police and fire. Hey, fire department's really pretty good guys, I gotta say. And his girlfriend, Gracie, it's the daughter my wife never had, so she could probably get away with anything. My oldest son, Caleb, he's an awesome young man. And then my mother and father-in-law, Lana and CL, Nunn. CL is a former Cobb County firefighter. So this family takes service to the community seriously. A former firefighter, a current firefighter, a retiree from the city of Atlanta, and to them I owe a debt of gratitude. To the men and women of the police department, I owe a debt of gratitude. Director Register, thank you very much. County Manager and Commissioners, thank you for what you've done tonight for the men and women of Cobb Police and Cobb Fire and Cobb SO with our step in the right direction of our finances. Thank you very much.
And I believe that appointment is effective tonight, isn't it, Rob? The appointment's effective tonight, correct? All right, great, okay. Okay, we're gonna go through the rest of the regular agenda, and then we'll take a short break, okay? So that, the next one is DOT.
Good afternoon again. So tonight, DOT has 12 agenda items for consideration. And our first agenda item is to request that the Board of Commissioners determine that circumstances are such that it is necessary to proceed with condemnation proceedings by declaration of taking under OCGA 32-3-4, authorize the commencement of condemnation proceedings on 2 parcels on Old 41 Highway Bridge over CSX Railroad, adopt resolutions and orders and forms substantially similar to those attached and is approved by the County Attorney's Office, and further authorize the chairman to execute the necessary documents.
Commissioner Burrow.
Motion to approve.
Discussion? Call the question. Passes 5-0.
Thank you. Our next item is to request that the Board of Commissioners approve a contract for acquisition of right-of-way with the Georgia Department of Transportation for South Barrett Reliever Phase 3, and authorize the corresponding budget transactions, and further authorize the chairman to execute the necessary documents to include necessary quitclaim deeds to GDOT for right-of-way certification.
Commissioner Burrow again.
Thank you. Motion to approve, and this is a very exciting project to
Yes, ma'am.
move forward.
Second, any discussion? Call the question. Passes 5-0.
Okay, thank you, sir. Our next item is to request that the Board of Commissioners approve contract modifications number 1, supplemental agreement to the reimbursable contract for acquisition of right-of-way with the Georgia Department of Transportation for Kennesaw Mountain pedestrian improvements.
Commissioner Gamble.
So moved.
Discussion? Call the question. Passes 5-0.
Thank you, sir. Our next item is to request that the Board of Commissioners approve a contract with Accelerate Construction LLC in an amount not to exceed $144,300 for drainage system repairs on Pineland Drive.
Commissioner Cupid.
So moved.
Discussion? Call the question. Passes 5-0.
Okay, thank you, sir. Our next item is to request that the Board of Commissioners approve a contract with Accelerate Construction LLC in an amount not to exceed $81,278.50 for bridge rehabilitation on Piedmont Road over Little Noonday Creek.
Commissioner Burrow.
Motion to approve.
Discussion? Call the question. Passes 5-0.
Okay, thank you. Our next item is to request that the Board of Commissioners approve a contract with WE Contracting Company Incorporated in an amount not to exceed $70,800 for demolition of 6 buildings located at the Woods Condominiums on Windy Hill Road, Terrell Mill Road Connector.
Commissioner Ott.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion? Call the question. Passes 5-0.
Okay, thank you, sir. Our next item is to request that the Board of Commissioners approve a change order number 1 to the contract with Paulette Tucker Enterprises, Inc., DBA Tucker Grading and Hauling, a no-cost contract time extension through July 7th, 2019 for Bells Ferry Road sidewalks.
Commissioner Burrow.
Motion to approve.
Discussion? Call the question. Passes 5-0.
Thank you, sir. Our next item is to request that the Board of Commissioners approve amendment number 1 to the construction agreement with Norfolk Southern Railway Company in an amount not to exceed $39,363.67 for additional construction engineering, inspection, and flagging services on Floyd Road.
Commissioner Cupid.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Call the question. Passes 5-0.
Okay, thank you. Our next item is to request that the Board of Commissioners ratify previous action by the county manager authorizing emergency repairs on Cinnamon Till Court in response to sinkholes and, to the 2018 countywide unit price contract with Chatfield Contracting, Inc. in an amount not to exceed $14,953.50 for said repairs.
Commissioner Ott.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Call the question. Passes 5-0.
The next item is to request that the Board of Commissioners authorize procurement of professional services for Detection Engineering Technology, Inc. in an amount not to exceed $18,375 for school flasher relocation on Trickham Road at Simpson Middle School.
Commissioner Burrow.
Motion to approve, and glad to see this move forward.
Yes, ma'am.
Discussion? Call the question. Passes 5-0.
Okay, thank you, sir. Our next item is to request that the Board of Commissioners authorize procurement of mitigation credits from the 3 Creek Cattle LLC in an amount not to exceed $233,735.55 for stream impacts associated with Windy Hill Road, Terrell Mill Road Connector Project.
Commissioner Ott.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Call the question. Passes 5-0.
Sir, and our last item is to request that the Board of Commissioners approve a utility relocation agreement with Georgia Power Company in an amount not to exceed $98,001 for preliminary engineering and relocation of facilities on the I-20 eastbound ramps at Riverside Parkway.
Okay, Commissioner Cupid.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Call the question. Passes 5-0.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Erica. Mr. Geesey.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, Mr. Manager. Our first item this evening is for the board to approve change order number 1 final to the contract with WE Contracting Incorporated for dam renovations at the Bartlett property and the Cato Nature Center. All work has been completed with a savings of $40,000 to the 2011 Park Splosh program. Therefore, we ask the Board of Commissioners to approve the agreement change, authorize the corresponding budget transactions, and further authorize the chairman to execute the necessary documents.
Commissioner Cupid.
So moved.
Discussion? Call the question. Passes 5-0.
Our second item is for the board to approve change order number 1 final to the contract with Sprint Turf LLC for synthetic turf installation at the Hubert and Mud Creek soccer complexes and Terrell Mill Park. All work has been completed with a savings of $34,746.75 to the 2016 Park Splosh program. Therefore, we ask the Board of Commissioners to approve the agreement change, or authorize the corresponding budget transactions, and further authorize the chairman to execute the necessary documents.
Commissioner Campbell.
So moved. Second.
Discussion? Call the question. Passes 5-0.
And for our third, fourth, and fifth item, Vanna will be bringing up the plans. Okay, the first or the third item is for the master plan at Bartlett, at the Bartlett property, which is located in District 4, just off Factory Shoals Road. You've got Factory Shoals. Down here is where Starling Drive turns off of Factory Shoals, and then it turns to the left on Starling Place, which comes into the existing Bartlett property that we own. Starting at the road, this last piece of property, approximately 2.5 acres, was a purchase that we did with the 2008 Parks Bond Program. This was very important to staff in that knowing coming in off Starling Drive and Starling Place, these are very small residential roads with children playing in those roads all the time. So having some type of an access off Factory Shoals would be of great benefit. So we're extremely pleased that we were able to get this. The remaining 21 acres was purchased in 2 phases with the Governor's Green Space Program back in the mid-2000s, and it's been sitting vacant since that time. To get a master plan approved will allow us, number one, to have a roadmap for the future, but also, as our staff has available time, we can go ahead and start constructing some of the trails, making it accessible to the public. So coming in off of Factory Shoals Road, you'll see a common theme with all of these, a lot of trails. We have heard that time and time again in all the public input meetings that we're doing now. They're not asking for ball fields. They're not asking for active use. Everyone's wanting trails and passive use. So coming in off of Factory Shoals to the first pavilion here at this area with a small parking lot, you've got natural trails taking advantage of the topography. As you can see with the lines pretty close together, it's kind of a rolling hill up in this area. You come further down into the park, you've got the parking and a small turnaround here with another pavilion and a restroom building. You'll notice some picnic areas with grills, outdoor looking playground apparatus. These are not your oranges, your blues, your pinks. This is more of a natural green, browns that'll blend in with the environment much better. The yellow trails that you see will be ADA accessible concrete paths. You see fishing piers as you go around the lake this way. This is the dam here that we just redid. So now it is
totally A-OK. We don't have trees growing in the dam anymore, so that's a good thing. But the trail will come on around the park. You'll see some natural trails that'll go off to the side. And then coming down to this area where there'll be a boardwalk crossing the trail there. With a aeration unit, that'll mean a healthy pond, as long as you can keep the air bubbling there. Realizing that there will be some people who will be confused and still try to go in here at off Starling Place. We've put a hammerhead here in this area with walk-through access, so people here in this neighborhood can walk down the street and then go into the park this way without having to get out on Factory Shoulder and come in. But it's also got a turnaround area to go back out. There is no funding to start development of this, but as I mentioned, if we can build some of the trails ourselves, we can open it up to the community.
Okay. Commissioner Cupid.
Yep, no, everything starts with the plan. So
Absolutely.
this is a good start. And despite my disappointment how much Vanna has changed over the years, I do approve of this plan and had the ability to go out to the site today and see Starling Place would be a very difficult point to try to access the park. So I think the parking that flows off of Factory Shoals is fitting for this area and in support.
So you want to make a motion to
Yeah.
approve?
So with that, yes, I move that we approve agenda item number 41 to approve the park master plan for the Bartlett property in Mapleton.
Second. And then Commissioner Burrow has a comment, Commissioner Rod also.
Is there a curb cut off of Factory Shoals, or we have to build a road through there?
We'd have to build a road in. There's currently a house sitting right in this area, so it would have to be demolished for the road to come in.
That's part of our park
But it's
purchase.
part of
Remember,
our
we
property.
purchased that area through the parks bond.
We originally looked
Yeah.
at this whole area, remember? But there was, in the environmental assessment on that piece of property, so we kicked it out.
Okay. I understand the safety and the issues with the coming off of Starling Drive, but I never want to purchase another property where there's no road access, where a road has to be built. But that's part of the plan.
Sure.
The master plan for Mabry Park was approved in 2011, in May of 2011 by this board, and it just opened last month, so.
Absolutely.
And it's a
But
magnificent park.
I'm fine with this, I just, it's the majority of the cost of developing it is gonna be that road. So,
Commissioner Rod.
Although I agree with Commissioner Cupid that everything starts with a plan, and Commissioner Burrow kind of pointed out some of my concerns. I mean, we still have parks that are not fully open. Hyde Farm, that has been around a lot longer than even Mabry Park. I just have concerns that these parks, we do a master plan, and then all of a sudden we start hearing, oh, well, we have to do it because we have a master plan. Yet we hear about the hemorrhaging in public safety and the rest of the employees. And my concern is, the county has a lot of parks, and I know those folks want more green space. But the fact of the matter is, this board needs to concentrate the money on the employees first. And I know that you said that there is no funding, but I've seen it before in my 11 years up here that the master plan is the camel's nose under the tent. And I want to make it very clear that although I'm going to vote for the master plan, I will not support moving forward on any development of this site or the other two until the issue with public safety and the other employees is addressed first.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, sir. Other comments? All right, call the question. Passes 5-0.
Okay, we go from a 21-acre site to a 1.6-acre site. This is the true definition of a pocket park. Mapleton Elementary sits right here. The South Cobb Regional Library is over here, along with the Mabel House complex. This was created when DOT worked on the entrance to the new Mapleton Elementary School. Everything that you see in black letters is already there. Trees are already there, sidewalks are already there. But the community come together and said, okay, we have a nice amenity here. Can we spruce up the plan a little bit? Therefore, we can start sponsoring benches. We can start sponsoring water fountains. We can start polling the community to try to get a little bit more done here in this area so they can have a gathering place for events. So the only thing that we've looked to add to complete the master plan are some park benches, doggy fountains here, human fountains over here. This plaza area is really the main thing that's added. So like if they want to do a tree lighting during the holidays, things like that can happen here on the plaza area. This is a retaining wall that's already there. And one of the things that the community talked about was a playground, half of it being undercover, half of it not being undercover, along with some benches. So it's very simplistic. There's about 40 parallel spots around the square and then down this road here. But it's mainly just a place for the community to come and gather. And like I said, we have already had interest from several businesses wanting to sponsor benches and things like that.
Yeah.
Are there restrooms?
No, no, you don't.
Within walking distance?
You don't normally have those at a pocket park. No, ma'am.
Or parking?
Or
There's parking around.
There's only about 40 spaces around the square and then down this road.
Mr. Cupid, this one's yours.
Yes, again, another plan, and as Jimmy shared, there are community groups that are already looking to sponsor various items here that have already been active in beautifying Mableton. So I'm happy that there's a cohesive plan so that all of those partners can come together and see what all their efforts could look like jointly. And I'm appreciative of you responding to community concern as this area was built out, it actually lost the playground, and so this amenity is not quite as significant or large as the other playground, but it still provides an amenity for young children within this space. So with that, I move that we approve the park master plan for Mableton Town Square.
You have a second? Any discussion? Commissioner Ott?
With all of these, is there any increased cost, maintenance costs for you all, other than what you already have from when we purchased the land?
We're already maintaining this anyway, so
Okay,
it's,
all right.
And I would like to echo that for the other park. The other park is already in the park system.
yes.
Okay, then I'll call the question. Passes 5-0. Man, hat trick tonight, Commissioner Cupid.
Now, we've had, we've had Baby Bear, Mama Bear, this is Papa Bear. This is Violet F. Stout Park. It's a 305-acre park down in the southwestern portion, corner of the county. This is the original 81 acres that Dick Stout gave to the county. Gosh, it was late 90s. In the 2006 Parks Bond Program, we purchased another 137 acres that was owned by Steve Stana. And that's this area, the light green, and then over on this side as well. And then with the 2008 Parks Bond Program, we were able to purchase another 86 acres from the Wallace family. It also went across Brownsville Road a little bit. So now we're at 305 acres, which is one of the largest parks that we actually own. Of course, the Allatoona Creek Park that we have under lease from the Corps is just humongous, but this is one of the largest parks that the county actually owns. We do have Phase 1 development money for this in the 2016 Parks Bond Program. Once the master plan is approved, we will then sit down with the district commissioner, try to get an idea of what to include in Phase 1, and then we'll be bringing that back to you for approval with the SPLOST program. So I guess we can start out at number 1. There's about 10 miles of equestrian and pedestrian trails on this plan. That's one of the areas that I really don't think we do a very good job of as far as meeting the demand of the equestrian community. Yes, they have Kennesaw Mountain, but this is, that was Mr. Stout's glaring wish that this would be an equestrian area for the county. So a lot of trails back in this area. You've got the Pine Valley Road parking over in here with a small dog park. The UGA Extension Service has shown an interest in coming out and doing some test plots with sod, things like that. You get over in this area, we have a lot of police K-9 training that goes on out here. We've got a big area for them here. Community center along with, a community garden along with a community center that was actually used when the senior services building was flooded down at Legion Park in Austell. This is where they moved. So it's already had one renovation done to it. A dam, you've got Mr. Stana's barn here, as well as an open air arena. One thing you'll notice is Sweetwater Creek traverses this property, and as you know, during flood events, Sweetwater Creek can be an ugly monster. So we've found two very strategic places that we can cross Sweetwater, one over on the eastern boundary and then one up on the northwestern boundary, to try to create an entire loop where folks can actually walk and or ride their horses around here. In this area, this is Mr. Stout's original house here. You've got a natural playground. We heard loud and clear from our public input meetings, keeping horses and the kids playing away from one another. So we moved these trails up into the edge of the woods. Miss Stout's memorial is here at number 14. You've got some outdoor camping areas. Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts can come in and do their camping in these open meadows in the middle of the woods. I think Mr. Ott said they sometimes feel like they're traveling to Florida or something, but they don't know it, but they've just gone around 285 and all of a sudden they're at Stout Park. You've got a couple of different horse arenas, one covered, 3 uncovered in this area and 1 uncovered in this area. You've got the maintenance area coming in off of Brownsville Road. One thing that was it was a challenge is getting horses across Brownsville Road, because folks travel up and down Brownsville Road at a pretty high rate of speed. So we looked at bridging, we looked at tunneling, but right now we're looking at hawk crossings. And whether that's the flashing kind that you see in the National Park Service or whether it's the red light that you see on the Silver Comet, we'll work with DOT to determine what's the best version of a hawk crossing in 2 spots right in here. But then they can come back in here and loop back around. So we're really pleased the way this has kind of grown from Mr. Stout's original 81 acres into a pretty much of a mega park in the southwestern part of the county.
Mr. Cupid?
Yes, Jimmy, can you speak about the trust and how that plays a part?
Mr. Stout not only left us the 81 acres, but he also left us a $2 million trust where we can use the interest that trust earns to help maintain Stout Park. We can use it to, if we need a batwing mower to mow the big pastures, we can do that. I believe we've got a trail making machine out of it, so we can come back in here and make trails. So Mr. Stout was a very fine gentleman, and I always treasured our times going down to the Come and Get It down in Powder Springs. He always had a story. We also, number 11, we have a caretaker that's already on site. That makes it tremendously easier. When we do have events or rentals here on the property, we have a caretaker on site. We've always got eyes on the park, and it's really come in handy.
All right. Well, thank you for your work on this, Jimmy. And I move that we approve the presented park master plan for Violet F. Stout Park, including the addition of Wallace Family Farm at Stout Park.
Second? Second discussion?
Can I make?
Sure, absolutely.
I'm glad to see this park coming about. I know it's been a long time, and I know the equestrians out there will thank you for that. One comment on the hawk crossing. When you mount that, make sure the button is where a rider can reach it while mounted. Oftentimes,
Okay.
if you are at the national battlefield, it's so low you can't reach it safely. And also that it's back off the roadway so that the horse is not sticking out into the street to access.
Good idea.
Great comment.
From someone who knows.
Yes.
With that, I'll call the question.
She was part of the planning committee, so appreciate it. Did we vote? Okay.
Passes 5-0. Okay, thank you very much, Jimmy.
Thank you.
And then the last agenda item before the break, Sharon?
evening, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, Mr. County Manager. The item I'm bringing tonight is a joint item between Information Services and the Fleet Management Department. Fleet currently uses Fleet Focus as the enterprise fleet asset management system for vehicles and Fuel Master to manage fueling stations for those vehicles. We are currently operating on an older version of Fleet Focus that has limited functionality and is no longer supported. This fleet system upgrade project will provide a robust state-of-the-art solution with implementation led by AssetWorks LLC, our current Fleet Focus vendor, and Systech, our current Fuel Master vendor. Hardware, software, and services for the project are available for purchase under provisions of various contracts or price agreements for the U.S. General Services Administration, Georgia Technology Authority, and other state of Georgia agencies. The estimated cost of the project is an amount not to exceed $783,063. Technology Improvements is an eligible capital project program under the 2016 SPLOST. Business Technology Transformation is an improved project of the Support Services Technology Improvements Work Program. We request the Board of Commissioners authorize the purchase of hardware, software, and services for the fleet upgrade project in an amount not to exceed $783,063 to upgrade the county's enterprise fleet asset management system with AssetWorks LLC, upgrade the fuel management system with Systech Incorporated, and purchase infrastructure and computing devices under provisions of various contracts or price agreements with the U.S. General Services Administration, Omnia Partnerships Public Sector, State of Georgia Department of Administration Services, Georgia Technology Authority, and other state of Georgia agencies. Authorize the corresponding budget transactions and further authorize the purchasing director to execute the necessary documents.
Commissioner Ott.
Okay, there's a whole lot of words there.
Yes, sir.
And
I could,
as the chairman has seen, we're making huge strides in fleets and also IS. Technology costs money, but with this technology, we are better able to track our assets and our resources. Also, as we move forward with the new fleet maintenance building, we look to be able to increase the insourcing, which brings in additional revenue. None of that would be never would be possible without upgrading our technology, as this agenda item would do. So, motion to approve.
Discussion? Call the question. Passes 5-0.
thank you.
Okay, let's just take a 5-minute quick in-place break. Don't go wandering off, because I'm going to call us back to order here sooner than later. roughly, and you have 3 minutes.
Hello, my name is Claudia, and I'm here to urge the Board of Commissioners of Cobb County to oppose 287G. I grew up here in Cobb County. I went to elementary school. I remember field trips going to Kennesaw Mountain, and I also, use the Big Chicken as a landmark. So I felt integrated into the community here, into Marietta and later Kennesaw, but never would I feel more alienated and othered when we would be pulled over by the police for minor traffic violations or for whatever reason. And so 287G affects me personally, but also the working class Black and brown community at large, because 287G is a program, for those who don't know, that allows ICE to cooperate or collaborate with local law enforcement, to deputize them, and to carry out detentions for immigrants. And so what it does is that it increases racial profiling and human rights violations within Cobb County. In 2013, 96 arrestees, or 96% of ICE detentions were of people with darker complexion. Now, those numbers don't come about without some degree of racial profiling. And to a greater extent, 287G also creates a deportation pipeline that separates families. We hear about the abuses happening at the border, but those abuses are also happening here in ICE detention centers. And that psychological trauma scars deep, emotionally and physically. I'd like to speak about Eduardo Samaniego. He was an immigrant rights activist here in Georgia, a scholar, and a beloved member of his community. But months ago, he was detained through a very minor dispute with a taxi driver where he didn't have the change to pay at his house, and he was going to go in and get the money. But instead, the taxi driver accosted him and called the police, where he was then later detained and held for months or weeks at an ICE detention center where he faced medical neglect and isolation. Isolation is a human rights violation. It scars psychologically. It is a crime against humanity. And now, we rallied to help support Eduardo, but he in the end decided to self-deport instead because the trauma was too great. So these are the human costs of 287G, and I urge the Board of Commissioners to oppose 287G. Thank you.
The next speaker is D.A. King.
Good evening, Mr. Commissioner and members of the board. My name is D.A. King. I have been studying the crime of illegal immigration for 16 years, mostly at my own expense and donations. I am here in support of 287G. The corporate funded organizers who have brought most of these people here tonight have tried to make the people think that you have somehow the power to stop the renewal of 287G in Sheriff Warren's jail. I know you don't, you know you don't, but the organizers aren't telling you that. I just returned in April from a week-long trip on both sides of the Arizona-Mexico border. We went into Mexico, we spoke to Mexican federales, Mexican police officers, and we spoke to Border Patrol agents and sheriff deputies on the American side. I assure you that the 287G system of locating illegal aliens in the jail is very close to the way that it's done in Mexico. But I want to make it clear for the record that nobody is arrested under 287G, contrary to what you may hear. All non-citizens who go through the Cobb County Jail are run through the 287G system. Anybody who is here illegally is then reported to ICE and sometimes held for the ICE to pick them up. The lies that come forth on 287G will never end. I am simply here to defend the system. Along the border in Arizona, what we note, the 5 times that I've been there, is that illegal aliens normally run from law enforcement. Now that's changing because the illegals have learned that if they find a child of any description, whether or not it's theirs, that they can come in and run to Border Patrol agents. But here in Georgia, when I go to Arizona, I tell people who live on the border that where I live, folks, the illegal aliens don't run from anyone. They march in our streets and they demand an end to enforcement and an end to our borders. I am here to try to speak for Billy and Kathy Inman, for example, whose son was killed by an illegal alien because local law enforcement let that illegal alien go long enough to kill their only child, Justin. If this is a public safety evening, I would appreciate it if people would focus on the 287G system as a public safety device.
Okay, excuse me, Mr. King. This is a very respectful gathering. And whoever that was in back, you're out of order and you're out of line and you're being very disrespectful. So I'd appreciate you if you realize that you're in Cobb County and here we have informed, respectful discussions. And we respect each other's time at the podium. If you want to get up here, like if you signed up, we will listen to you appropriately for 3 minutes, respectfully. I wish you extend the same courtesy to this gentleman up here. With that, I'll give you 30 more seconds.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What I wanted to finish with was that I thank the sheriff, and I will not stand by while people imply that any law enforcement officer in Cobb County has ever arrested anybody with anything having to do with the color of the subject's skin. The sheriff has found murderers, kidnappers, rapists, and child molesters in his jail who are in this country illegally and turned them over to the federal authorities. For that, I am thankful. The concept that 287G somehow makes our community less safe points to the absurdity of the anti-enforcement arguments that you hear now and will hear next year and 3 years after that. I support 287G, and I wanted to point out that the reason that most people aren't here to support it is because they assume you're going to support 287G. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Any questions?
The next speaker is Rafael Solorzano.
Hello, thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. My name is Rafael Solorzano, and I am a member actually of Georgia Latino Alliance for Human Rights. And I'm here as a member and also here supporting those who live here in Cobb County. I do not live here in Cobb County. I actually live in Atlanta. I'm actually a visiting scholar at Emory University, specifically writing about Latinos and Latinas immigrants living here in Georgia. So much of my work has been about documenting Latino immigrants' experiences here in the South since actually the 1940s. How immigrants, specifically Latinos, have arrived to these regions as guest workers with diverse aspirations and have always confronted distinct receptions, and at times ambiguous and other times problematic receptions. Along with my colleagues, I'm here today to discuss one of these problematic times. I'm referring to your county's 287G agreement with the Department of Homeland Security. Aside from the fact that 287G increases racial profiling and disproportionately affects communities of color and specifically men, I would like to discuss how policies like 287G, which causes the detention deportation of unauthorized immigrants for driving without a license or for other smaller minor infractions, causes the separation of families, right? And creates a financial disaster for families and communities here in your community. 287G is causing extreme stress within immigrant communities, deporting fathers, mothers, or legal guardians, causes a loss of household income, which affects families, neighborhoods, your cities, and your county. Over the long haul, the separation of loved ones, the loss of a breadwinner, becomes an economic hardship on families who have to confront this. Due to this, you begin to see the psychological and socioeconomic harm on children and youth. National research indicates deportation of an undocumented parent can reduce household income by as much as 70%. It also lowers economic activity and tax revenues and strains community social services. We know what it feels like to live within a thriving hub and in a thriving community, and we all want this for our communities. If we agree that families provide youth the support systems and the tools by which individuals lead economically and socially productive lives, and this is to the benefit of all of us, by agreeing to renew 287G, you are agreeing to deny such experiences to certain communities and its results. And this is financial harm, psychological distress, and overall harm to children. Additionally, I leave you with this. The Sheriff Office of El Paso County, Colorado terminated its 287G agreement over 8 years of operation, choosing to reallocate resources. I urge you to do the same.
Thank you, sir.
The next speaker is A.D. Nichols.
Give them to the clerk. Just, there you go, and she'll give them to us.
Hello, good evening. My name is Adelina Nichols. I am the Executive Director of the Georgia Latino Alliance for Human Rights, and I am also a resident here in Marietta, Georgia. I live in 574 Civil Lane, East Cobb. And today is about the 287G, and I know that you have heard a lot of our colleagues talking about this, but I think it's time for change. It is time to end the 287G. For several years now, we have witnessed how community members have been arrested under the 287G, and we continue to see this over and over, which are talking about not just individuals or undocumented community, but we are talking about our brothers, husbands, that just want to make a living for themselves. It's not only about the person that is being detained, that the one that is suffers the impact, but as well the families and the communities as well. We believe that instead of paying attention to 287G, we need to pay attention more into the local priorities, such education, services, because at the same time, law enforcement with 287G programs are doing the work for federal immigration agents, and the county is absorbing all the costs associated with it. These costs include travel, housing, trainings, overtime, other personal costs, and administrative supplies. According to the 2018 Georgia Budget and Policy Institute report under the 287G program, this places a tremendous financial burden on Georgia's localities. This report estimates that holding people based on ICE detainers requests cost Georgia's local governments on the whole an estimated $88 million from 2008 to 2017, or about $9 million a year statewide. 287G programs are also a liability. Localities may face litigation for detaining individuals on the basis of an ICE detainer, since several federal courts have found this practice to violate the Fourth Amendment. From 2014 to 2018, 287G serves as a deportation pipeline where 1,581 individuals, are immigrants and refugees as well, are being detained and processed for deportation. And around 50% of those individuals that have been arrested were arrested under no violations or low crime level violations. And hundreds of them are accused and never convicted or presumed guilty just because the color of their skin without any due process.
Thank you for your comment.
287G is the most, we request the commissioners to stop that 287G funding.
Okay,
Thank you.
The next speaker is Pat Burns.
Good evening. My name is Pat Burns. I live in Smyrna. Yesterday was Memorial Day. I was in a small, nearly abandoned country cemetery in rural Minnesota. There I paid my respects to a classmate. He was killed during the Tet Offensive in Vietnam in 1968 when we were 23 years old. As I stood before him, I stand before you. I'm unafraid. I ask that 287G not be renewed. 287G is a harsh, divisive tool. It takes advantage of anxious community leaders and sows seeds of suspicion. Have the courage to say no. If necessary, I'll hold your hand as you try to say no, and that you can overcome your fears. As you know, undocumented labor built modern Cobb County. Throwing them under the bus is not modern Cobb County. To look at this federal program with open eyes is challenging, but it's something you did with public safety a couple of years ago. It appears we've paid millions of dollars to detain nonviolent mothers, fathers, and sons and daughters. The human cost to Cobb children is scalding. We have thousands of American and other children with missing a parent, a brother, or a sister in their home. One example is of a child is now a young adult man, and he's running for mayor of Powder Springs. When he was a youngster, his father was deported. Continuing 287G destabilizes families. It destabilizes law and order. It destabilizes Cobb, opening it up to a very real possibility of racial profiling. In conclusion, there are too many risks to families, to community, and to public safety to approve 287G. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Burns.
The next speaker is Priyana Ba.
Thank you for your time. My name is Priyanka Bhatt, and I'm an attorney with a nonprofit organization, Project South, and we have members all across Georgia. As we all know, Cobb County is home to a beautifully diverse population celebrating Black, Latino, Asian, and other cultures. Cobb County's own website talks about how one of the strengths of our community is cultural diversity. Cobb has grown by almost 10% in the past decade and is increasingly more diverse. The statement goes on to say that this is what makes our community thrive. It is really, really hard to believe those words when at the same time Cobb County is caging and making money off of detaining immigrants through the 287G. In Cobb, 84% of those apprehended by ICE through 287G and other programs either had no conviction at all or had a low-level conviction, like a traffic violation. This number is even higher in other 287G counties in Georgia. In Whitfield, it's 88%, and Gwinnett, it's 90%. This is deliberately showing that 287G is not about keeping communities safe, but rather it is about scaring and locking away immigrants. Reports have shown that Cobb officers do often engage in racial profiling, and that community members are even afraid of entering the county or calling law enforcement. In addition, Cobb is spending taxpayer money to fund 287G and also is making about $42 per detained immigrant daily through an intergovernmental service agreement with ICE. This shows that there is an even more perverse incentive to continue what we're doing, which is to continue racially profiling and detaining immigrants who have minor or no violation at all. I am here today with the rest of my community members to urge you to put an end to 287G. Thank you.
Thank you.
The last three speakers are all speaking on a single issue, and they've asked to be able to present together so that they don't have to reiterate what one another says. So with that, I'd call forward Jake Wynn, Millicent Nyarko, and Tracy Sapp.
Okay.
Good evening.
Good evening, Commissioners. I am Tracy Sapp, and I've lived in Cobb County for over 22 years, and I'm my current residence for 12 years. We're having a major issue with getting support from our county officials in erosion control, building inspections, and code enforcement regarding a major runoff issue on our property. I'm going to read to you the letter that I've sent to Commissioner Cupid, which outlines all the details, and I'd like to show you a video of some of the issues that we're having. We reside in Sharp Drive in Mableton. We've owned our home since November of 2006. There's a retaining wall in our backyard with a sloped hill that backs up to a neighboring property which faces the main road. The neighboring property addresses are on Oakdale Road, and they're owned by the same individual. The homeowner on this property operates a tree business and does construction which collects a ton of dirt and debris. Whenever it rains, massive amounts of this debris and water wash under our property from the neighboring property. Our yard has been destroyed and is barely usable. There's at least 24 inches of dirt and debris that has run off onto our property from theirs. The yard never dries, it's always muddy, and the grass is literally covered with mud in spots. The water pours over the wall with such force it has created a pit that is 2 feet deep and 2 feet wide at the base of the retaining wall, making it a safety issue, and the pit is filled with water, never dries. There's standing water. We have issues with flies and mosquitoes. Over the years, we've contacted the city of Smyrna and Cobb County for assistance with this issue, and we've expressed our concerns about the retaining wall, the slope of the hill, and the runoff, and we've been bounced around from the city of Smyrna to Cobb County to erosion control to code enforcement, and I can show you, which I've sent to Commissioner Cupid, this is a smidgen of 10 years of complaints and violations that I could find, and there's even more on the website for the homeowner with the complaints that we've been having. We have had 3 separate professionals come out and pretty much basically say there's nothing you can do until the water issue is dealt with. So as a 22-year resident of the county, we've only lived in Smyrna and Mableton. We're just simply requesting that you get involved to make the officials do their job, because what they do is they send out a person to note the issue, give the homeowner 5 days to fix it. They go back out and check it after 5 days. They didn't fix it. They give them 5 more days to fix it. And it's just an ongoing cycle. And meanwhile, our property has been destroyed and we can't use it. I wanted to show a video and allow my neighbors to have some time to speak as well. I know we've got time constraints. And these are separate videos, different yards, but you'll see the same issue. Am I able to put this just here, maybe? Okay. Let's just open this one. Start with this. This is random. I mean, this is just a random Tuesday, you know. I'm gonna show you another one because this, oh, there it is. Thank you. This is every time it rains. And this is my yard, and I'll show you another video, similar video, different property of another yard. Thank you. Here's another one. This is my neighbor Jake, I think, 5933, just maybe 4 or 5 houses down the street. This is a different rain event. This isn't the same day that this happened in my yard. It stands, it collects for days, there's bugs there, you just can't even use your property. And we've talked to Frank Gibson, who's over erosion control, we've talked to the guy who's over code enforcement, the inspector's come out, he's been in my home several times, my name is listed in these complaints, and so are my neighbors' names. I'll show you another. I know that you get the idea, but it's just unbelievable. Oh, actually, I think this one is. So our planter bed that we planted, falling apart because of the rain and the water. We try to enjoy our property. You see the trampoline. My kids track mud all through the house, so we just don't like them to go out there. So that's my concern, and I'll let my neighbors speak. My main concern is just getting some support and making people just enforce the laws and the rules about operating a business and letting your business debris run off into another person's property. It shouldn't be allowed. Thank you for your time.
Sure, hold on one second. Okay, all right, go ahead. Go ahead, sir. Or ma'am.
Actually, what I wanted to add is that I don't know if this individual that's uphill from us has the permission or even allowed to operate a business up there at all. So lots of time when I call Mr. Keel to come out, after all the citation and all the warnings or whatever they do, he's finding additional things that these guys are trying to put up, like a retaining wall. There are big blocks. I kid you not, they're probably almost the size of these desks. And it's uphill, probably about 30 to 40 feet away from my backyard. If that gives way, that will get in my living room. I have a 2-year-old and has not even stepped in the backyard, and we're not even to enjoy, our backyard like we're supposed to as a family. And it has caused us a lot of stress ever since then. And so I ask that y'all step in and do something about it, because it's just a cycle over and over again. When it rains, it pours.
Good evening. My name is Millicent Yarko. So yes, as Dave mentioned, we've been dealing with this. Tracy and I have been in this neighborhood the longest, about 12, 13 years, and it's just been a lot of back and forth between the county and then the city. It's almost like there's this blaming game. I mean, for us, we just knew that we bought some properties and we were trying to enjoy them. I don't think it's fair that, we have to sit and deal with this type of mess and just constantly go back and forth with each other, kind of, playing the blaming game like, oh, well, it's coming from this, it's coming from that. That property that is behind us does contribute a lot to this because of the business that they have. I'm not saying they can't have a business, but there should be, some type of rules, laws, what have you, that they need to abide by. When the different people do go up there, from code enforcement and erosion control, I mean, they just tell us, okay, we give them this, we give them that, and it's just the same thing over and over. And we've been dealing with this, like we mentioned, for the past 12 and 13 years. So we're just asking for some type of help, some type of guidance, for you all to, get on the people that's, working in the county, and so that we can try and get this thing resolved. Thank you.
Mr. Cupid?
I appreciate you being here tonight and you emailing me on the 16th. We've had water and also community development officials. Our community development manager has been corresponding with code enforcement and also erosion control. There's some updates, and I'm not sure if you've been getting all the correspondence. The individual has been operating a business there illegally and will be in court on the 13th to address the code enforcement issues. And I believe Frank Gibson responded on the 22nd that he'll be out there this week. So I don't know if you've seen him on the property, but we can follow up with him at the end of this week to see what he's observed. You're kind of in a tough situation because it appears one property owner's in the county and you're in the city. Correct. And the city's saying they don't have jurisdiction over the county property. And then you're dealing with some new people on the county end, including myself just now hearing about this issue. And also we have a new manager, but our department head, but our agency head, excuse me, but everything that I've seen has shown that we're trying to be responsive. I hate that you've been dealing with this as long as you have been, but I will continue to follow up on this matter. You can email me and I can forward You also, the correspondence I received regarding the court date, if you want to be present for that, I don't think it hurts to have people who've been witnessing certain events or been impacted to be present on those matters. But we'll do our best to be on top of it because you are dealing with a very unfortunate matter. And now that it's hot and it's summer, I mean, it looks like it's a breeding ground for mosquitoes, which causes additional issues on top of what you already had. Matter of fact, if we can talk offline too about that particular issue, there may be some things that could be done on the short run, in the short run.
We appreciate it.
If
Thank
you'd
you all
hang
for your time.
around, we're almost done with the meeting, so if you'd hang around,
Okay,
all right, the commissioner will be glad to talk to you.
awesome.
Okay.
Thank you. We appreciate your time.
No, you're welcome. Thanks for coming tonight. Okay. On to appointments. And we have 3 tonight, I believe, right? 2 to approve and 1 to announce. So make a motion to approve the appointment of Mary Weatherby to the Board of Family and Children Services. We have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Call the question? Passes 5-0. And I make a motion to approve the appointment of Edric Harris to the South Cobb Redevelopment Authority.
Second.
Discussion? Call the question? Passes 5-0. Commissioner Gamble, you have an announcement?
And I'd like to announce the appointment of Richard Rubio to the Neighborhood Safety Commission.
Okay, thank you. And Commissioner Rod, I'll start with you on the commissioner announcements.
Okay, I just have 2. The first one, Brad, you want to put up the slide? I know the commissioners all know about the Cobb House, the Cobb overdose prevention effort. We have 2 really big tours coming up. For those in the audience, the Cobb House is a training tool for parents and guardians, as you can see, 21 and older. And it's set up like a teenager's bedroom, bathroom, and closet. So as you can see, there's going to be 2 tours set up as part of an effort with the Davis Direction Foundation and also the Extension Service. The first one is at Hyde Farm, and you can see the address there, and that's on Friday, June 7th from 6 to 7. And RSVP with the Extension Service. And the second one is at the Cobb Extension Office, which is on South Cobb Drive, and you can see the address there. And that's on June 18th from 10 to 11 in the morning, and the RSVP deadline is June 3rd. A great opportunity for parents and guardians to learn some invaluable information on how to know if your child is abusing drugs and that you need to start having a conversation. And the last thing I have, Ryan. I told him he wouldn't still be here. So Ryan started out as one of my Eagle Scouts, but he is now here as an intern. He goes to that other school in Alabama. We don't mention that name in our house, right, Ryan? So Ryan is interning with me this summer. Why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
Hello, everybody. I'm Ryan York. I am just about to start my junior year at University of Alabama. I'm going to be a political science major. Like Mr. Rott said, I became an Eagle Scout from Troop 1011. I grew up here in Cobb County. I love it my entire life. I'm very excited to be working here.
All right, welcome.
Welcome.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Burrow?
Thank you. I would first like to congratulate Mr. Forrest, first for his 25 years of service with the Marine Corps, and appreciate your service and all that you've done for our country. Thank you for giving this 2-year-old cat named Gaynor a forever home through our Superior Pets for Patriotic Vets program. To date, we have had 89 adoptions from the Cobb County Animal Shelter through this program. And I'd like to thank Superior Plumbing for their generosity of funding this program, and also to Cobb County Animal Services for their support and work and dedication. Tomorrow, 5/29, is the deadline to apply for Cobb's Emergency Response Team. You can learn how to prepare and respond to community emergencies and disasters. And to register or for more information, you can email bernard.king@cobbcounty.org or call 770-499-4568. On June the 8th, the Northeast Cobb Business Association will be hosting their 5th annual 5K9 Walk and Run. Proceeds will be used to purchase a specially trained comfort dog for Cobb County District Attorney's Office for their Children and Elderly Abuse Court. The race will be held Saturday, June 8th, 8 a.m. at Piedmont Church, and you can register at www.northeastcobbba.com. And last but not least, on June 27th, we've taken the Community Engagement Officers Coffee with Your Cop to a new level. District 3's newest park at 4055 Ebenezer Road has a beautiful lake, and fishing is allowed. So you can come have coffee with your cop and fish with your commish. And we'll see you at, maybe. I got to get a fishing license first. You have to bring your fishing pole and a fishing license. But Jimmy tells me the pond is stocked and we'll be ready to fish. So we welcome you to come and ask your questions of the police and me and have fun while you're doing it. And that's all I have, sir.
Commissioner Burrow, Commissioner Gamble.
I can teach you how to bait that hook.
Only she could get away with a line like that.
First, I'd like to offer congratulations to Officer Selvia and Officer Bullis for their accomplishment at the Georgia Police and Fire Games Motorcycle Rodeo held recently at SunTrust Park. Officer Steven Selvia took third place in the Expert Division and first place in the Challenge Ride. Officer Justin Bullis took third place in the Intermediate Division. And then also congratulations to our District 1 high schools. Dominion Christian High School won the state championship AAA tournament. And then our Hillgrove High School Hawks came in second place for their Class 7A state championships in the 2019 GHSA Baseball Series. And then also I'd like to announce my first official town hall meeting will be on June 11th at the St. Clair of Assisi's Catholic Church in Ackworth, Georgia from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m.
Mr. Chairman, if Commissioner Cupid would indulge me, I would like to show something to Commissioner Pearl that maybe she might get a little help.
On the fish, on the hook, on the hook.
Brad, you still have it up? No.
Help from what? I don't need you. Oh, Lord. Who is that? Who is that?
Well, we know it's gonna, we know it's gonna bait.
That is a big redfish.
Well, he's invited.
Well, we know who to bait the hook.
Yeah. You gonna come help me?
So if you want somebody to show you how to catch the big ones.
I didn't even recognize him.
That's a good one. On that note, Commissioner Cupid, try to
I just
outdo
want to
that
know
one.
how to get a fishing license. I didn't know you needed one of those. Sporting goods store, okay. Just a few announcements. Sweetwater Mission is raising funds for its summer food program and is asking for sponsorships for children. You can sponsor a child for only $50, and you can go online to learn more at sweetwatermission.org. Also, for our nonprofits, there will be governance training occurring next week and the week thereafter, sponsored by the Cobb Collaborative. And you can go to their website. You can just search Cobb Collaborative or check out my newsletter for a link to sign up for those trainings. The week of, on June 13th, our Mableton Farmers Market will be reopening, and those market days are every Thursday from June 13th through August 22nd, held in the parking lot of Mabel House Complex, and the hours are from 8:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. and encourage persons to attend. Lastly, if you have any children who are looking for something to do tomorrow, which is on the birthday of yours truly, they can participate in Code Ninjas, and that will be at the South Cobb Regional Library, where there will be coding activities for children ages 8 and up, and that will be between 1 p.m. and 2 p.m. Those are all my announcements.
Commissioner, and with that, we're adjourned.